Hello, this is Derek from Inflatable SUP Authority, and today I'm excited to finally be trying the Blackfin XL by iRocker. In this review, we're going to be doing some on-water performance metrics such as standing, see how the board feels when I'm standing up, tracking, maneuverability, and a little bit of speed. So stay tuned. As of right now, we're just cruising along merrily. Right now, let's try standing on this board and I'll tell you exactly how it feels. So let's do it. Okay. Yeah, overall the board feels pretty stable. I do feel a little bit of the rocking side to side, and I think that's because the nose is slightly pointed, but overall, I don't feel like this is tippy at all. I kind of expected this from the XL. I knew it is one of the more stable boards out there, and it's actually, by a lot of other reviewers, it's one of the most highly rated out there. So yeah, overall, this feels very stable. Just paddling along, I'm getting pushed by the tide here. So we're just cruising. On the way back, this won't be the case. But so far, board feels pretty good. Could even do a little bit of walking on the board, which is good. That's something that be a lot harder to do on a thinner board, that's for sure. So I do have that good initial stability impression from the Blackfin XL. As we're kind of cruising right into the marina here, just gonna do a little bit of a bounce test on this board, kind of see how it feels comparatively compared to a few other ones that I've sort of jumped on. Yeah, let's give it a try. Okay, my sandal is getting loose there. Overall, feels fairly stiff. It's not the stiffest board that I've done this on, but it's, it feels pretty robust. It definitely does not have the bend like some other boards, like cheaper Amazon boards, etc. have. It's a lot more sturdy than that. This board has continued in 2024 to have the carbon side rails, which I'm seeing a lot of sub manufacturers are actually starting to lose that, but Blackfin is keeping them on there, which is something I found to be interesting. Clearly they maybe see something that others don't. But yeah, overall the board is pretty stiff. One thing I wanted to note as well about this package is this is the basic package. So the one that iRocker sent to me, thank you by the way, it's basically the board, the fins, the leash, and the repair kit. They said they were gonna send a temporary paddle. I don't think I've received that yet, and so I just used one of the other paddles. So the paddle that I'm using right now is not the one that comes with this kit. Just wanted to specify that. Because this is a specific Blackfin segment, I'm not gonna really tell you who the brand is, but yeah, I just wanted to use a paddle that I was most comfortable with while doing some of these tests, so yeah. Now we're gonna do some maneuverability strokes, see how many strokes aside to do a 360. So first, let's do reverse sweep strokes. So let's do it. One, two, three, it's just about four reverse sweep strokes. Pretty solid. It's a pretty respectable score actually. As I was saying before, Mr. Plane very rudely interrupted me. So 4 reverse sweep strokes is a pretty good score, especially for a board that is 11 foot 6 inches long. Typically the longer the board, the more effort you kind of have to use to make the board do a 360 when you're doing the sweep strokes. So overall though, I felt that it was actually a pretty good score. I believe it might be just under what the average is, which in itself is pretty impressive considering, once again, the length of the board. Now let's try some reverse side paddles while there's no planes and the wind's not too bad. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. So about 12 reverse side paddles. Again, the tide is unfortunately affecting this test a little bit. You could kind of tell in the beginning, the board was almost going backwards, but once it started, the nose started hitting where the tide was going, then it kind of swiftly corrected. So we'll just say 12 reverse side paddles, which is also a very good score. I know there's definitely other 11.6 boards that do more, so pretty good maneuverability score so far for the Blackfin XL. I'm also starting to really appreciate the stability of the board, especially when I'm doing these strokes. Some thinner boards, like if you're about 32 inches and under, you kind of got to watch your footing just a little bit. You might have, like for example, the movement of the tide or whatever might kind of make you just adjust your footing kind of like that a little bit. But with this board, it felt stable throughout. I never felt that danger of the board tipping or anything like that. So that's also really good. That's also, I would say, a very good indication that this Blackfin XL would be a great fishing board too, because when you're fishing, you're doing standing, and if a wave or, like I said, the tide, wind comes at you all of a sudden, you don't want to be knocked off balance while you have a fishing rod and then you have to go and reach your paddle, etc. You want something that's stable throughout. So yeah, good job for iRocker with that one. Okay, let's give another try to the tracking test. I think the water is now behind me, so that'll make things a little more even. So we're gonna do the far post next to the houses there. You guys probably can't see that, but I can. All right, let's get a little bit of momentum and do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 on one side. Let's try the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so just on my approximate feel, I think, by the way, I should stay with these tracking tests. Don't take the numbers so seriously. Everyone sort of has their preference onto how much they want the board to go from side to side, essentially. So I prefer a little bit of a straight tracking board, and that's kind of how I've been tracking this. But yeah, 7 strokes aside is it's a good score for this. 11'6" board, but also it seems like the 34-inch width doesn't really take away from the tracking too much, which is good. And another thing that I find, and is often like consistent with almost all the boards I test, is that if the board has 5-inch side fins, that greatly helps with tracking. It detracts a little bit from speed, but in tracking, it definitely helps the board go more straight. So I just like it when boards have 5-inch side fins, because you can decide to take them off, put them on, etc., to really customize the experience of this board. So overall, pretty good scores. Okay, next we're gonna paddle like heck, and we are going to crash into that bridge. Just kidding, but we're gonna go toward the bridge there. Okay, so let's get a bit of speed and start doing this. Okay. Whew. The board definitely picked up some good glide there. It's pretty good. This definitely won't be fast on a touring board or anything like that, just because of the wide width. But overall, I felt like the board did have some glide. Now again, conditions are not perfect. I have a little bit of the wind and the tide going against my back, so that influences things, and that is also a reason why I don't really track my speeds. I just like to go by feel. Now, it's nice to put a number to things, but the reality of the situation is there's always outside elements that are affecting the speed no matter what. Wind, waves, tide. Even on a very calm day, there's always going to be some little thing that will make a bit of a difference. So as much as it's nice to put a number to it, I do feel like you really have to take into account what those outside elements are. Now we're just sort of paddling against the wind, kind of sticking closer to the shore so that I don't get the brunt of it. But overall, the way this board is handling against wind, I'm just doing casual paddles and I'm making my way back. It's just telling me that the board is more than hydrodynamic enough to, you know, battle a bit of wind and tide, which is honestly good news for fishermen, because if I was to use something like the Bolte HD Arrow, I feel like I'd have a little more trouble paddling back. But overall, yeah, this thing is doing just what it's supposed to. I do think that the slightly pointed nose helps with things as well. The rocker, when I was doing harder paddling strokes, I didn't see too much water planing on the nose, which is another good indication that the board is hydrodynamically sound. All right, as we're just kind of cruising back with the tide here, what are my overall impressions of the Blackfin XL? Overall, I feel like this is a really good paddle board for people who want a stable base. So paddlers I can think of right off the bat is bigger / taller paddlers, or even somebody who wants like a kid or a dog on the paddleboard perched at the front. There's also these little handles right here for them to grab on. I found even throughout maneuverability strokes, the board felt stable throughout, which is a good sign that, you know, you're paddling a very stable board. I also really like the design of this new Blackfin. Actually, like, things are actually very clearly labeled. Like, these are the mounts, you could say multifunction mounts. The design is really cool. These are like salmon just on the little print there, which I also think is a nice little touch. Yeah, overall the board's tracking. Maneuverability scores are pretty good, especially for the 11-foot 6-inch size of this board, but also the tracking was about standard as well. Of course, with this Blackfin XL, you can also mount a whole bunch of different accessories on the mounts. There's also a kayak kit you could put on there. There's also these little mounts at the back that I can just kind of show you there. So it's really good, especially if you're a fisherman. You want a very stable board. You want to go out there for a while, fish the flats. It also battles the tide pretty well. It's hydrodynamic enough to go through it. But yeah, overall, do I recommend the Blackfin XL? Yeah, it's a very well-made board. It's a little bit heavier than many other boards. I think it's about 28 pounds, 30 pounds, so I'll have to double check, but I'll tell you the exact stats in the review. So be mindful of that. Maybe have 2 people carrying this board, especially if you're maybe a smaller paddler. But yeah, overall, great board. This is Derek from Inflatable SUP Authority. If you like this review, feel free to like, subscribe, and the links are in the bio. Cheers.